So here we go. So 5-3 notes, slope-intercept form. Not a ton of examples again today, but just kind of the basics of what we've been doing this whole time. Ooh, it'll probably help if I get a marker. All right, so slope-intercept form is what we've been working with kind of this whole entire time, and it's used for linear functions, okay? So slope-intercept form is exactly what it sounds like, where it is an equation that's written in the format y equal mx plus b. And it's called slope-intercept form because it is y equals, and then the first thing is the slope that's next to the x, and the one that is not next to the x is the y-intercept. As long as it starts with y equals. So if it doesn't, just like yesterday, you have to make it start with y equals. The only way that you can say that the slope is the number next to x is if y is alone on one side of the equation. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay? So the types of questions in here are like this. Like, this is a very straightforward question. It says, what are the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of y equals 5x minus 2? So what you do is you think to yourself, oh, is y alone on one side of the equation? Yes, it is, right? So if it is, there's not really a lot of work to be done. What is the slope then of this equation? What's the slope, Emin? It's 5. Okay, what is the y-intercept of this equation then? Go ahead, Donovan. Positive or negative? It is -2. So something, and that is something I'm glad that we're pointing out, right? Is when we are basically dissecting the equation to make a slope and a y-intercept, taking it apart, a minus will turn into a negative sign, okay? So that minus goes with the 2, making the y-intercept -2. Okay, example 2 then is, again, it's not meant to be a super difficult question. What is the equation of the line with slope -4/5 and y-intercept of 7? So this is to do now the opposite of what we just did. If it tells you the slope and the y-intercept, what's the equation? Brandon, go ahead.
Y equals -4/5 plus 7.
That's perfect. Y equals, so you just write it in the slope-intercept form, starting with y equals, here's your slope, next to the x, and then you add or subtract the y-intercept depending if it's positive or negative. That's it. That's the answer. Great job. Okay. What is the equation for the line shown? Okay, so because I could not drag and drop this, I'm gonna have to have you make a line for me real quick, okay? And do the best you can, maybe with the edge of your paper or whatever. So you're gonna want to draw a coordinate axis, all right? So we'll draw the y-axis, draw the x-axis in. Okay, and we're going to try to fit in a 5 by 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at least. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one's got 6 on mine. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But at least 5 on each one. And then, and I'm going to do it in color for the sake of the video and so you can see. I'm going to have us do it like this, okay? So when you do this, I want it to cross the y-axis at 2 and the x-axis at 1 like this, okay? So draw your graph like that. And mine is a tiny bit off. I tried my best, but I'm working with markers here. So what you're looking for is for your line to cross the y-axis at 2 and the x-axis at +1, okay? So you're going to have many different graphs that you're going to have to look at and then write the equation for the graph. Well, if it is linear, then you can use slope-intercept form, okay? And so what you do is you start by identifying slope, which we use as M, and the y-intercept, B, okay? Now, for me, I know slope comes first in the equation, but I usually try and find y-intercept first because that's the easier value. There's no work to be done. Who can tell me what the y-intercept is of the graph that we just made? Colin, what is it?
2.
It's 2. Y-intercept literally means where does it cross the y-axis, and it crosses at 2. Now, yesterday we talked, or 2 days ago we talked about this. How do you find the slope from a graph? What do we do, Emma? Yeah, we're going to use rise over run to find slope. Okay, so we already have 2 dots available, and if you don't, you'd have to put your own on. So which one should I start at? Go, Xavier.
Positive 2 up.
Yep, so I'm going to start here. So what would be my rise then? Anthony, what's my rise? Down how far?
2.
Down 2. So my rise is actually -2, going down 2. And what's my run? Go ahead and yell it out.
1.
1. So if you simplify that, your slope is -2. So once you have that, the answer is to now write the equation. So what would be the final answer? What is the equation? Elvin, go ahead.
Y equals -2x plus 2.
Perfect. So, and you would be able to check this now to see if you've got the right answer. If you put that in your graphing calculator, it should graph this exact graph. Okay, and so that's something that you want to do, especially if you're taking a test or if you're on SAT or something like that. You want to get your answer and then use the tools you have to check your answer. Make sure you're correct. Get that point. Yep, okay. All right, last one. I did kind of show you on the first day before we really got into the note packet. Let's see what you remember. And I didn't show you to write the equation, but I showed you how to find the 2 things. So, what equation in y-intercept form, that should say slope-intercept form, sorry about that, I made a typo, in slope-intercept form represents the line that passes through the points 2, 1, and 5, -8. Okay, to get an equation in slope-intercept form, you need the slope and you need the y-intercept. Let's start with slope. So how do we find slope from 2 ordered pairs? Emin, what do I do?
Y2 minus Y1 divided by X2 minus Y1.
That's right, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay, don't forget your labels go in order this way. So this is actually x1, y1, because that's your first ordered pair, right? And then this one is x2, y2. So when you subtract, the top should be -8 minus 1 for y2 minus y1. And the bottom should be 5 minus 2. Okay, so what is -8 minus 1? What did you got? Good. And 5 minus 2, that's easy, that's 3. If I simplify that, what do I get? Perfect. Okay, so I have half of what I need. Now, do you remember what I told you to do to find the y-intercept given ordered pairs? Go, Cody. Cody, what do I do? Yes, okay. We need to use y equals mx plus b to find our y-intercept. And then, if you recall, I told you that we needed to substitute numbers in for some of the letters. Which letters have to now become numbers so that I can solve this out? Elvin, go.
Y
And one more.
and
X, yes, because we're solving for B. This is how you know. B is the one we're gonna get the answer for in the end. So we need a number in for y, m, and x. Well, m is literally what we just solved for right here. M's going to be -3. Where do I get x and y from? Okay, do you remember? Cody, where does it come from? Yeah, and you get a choice. You can either use x1, y1, or you can use x2, y2. Which one looks easier?
X1Y.
Yeah, no negatives, and it's 2, 1. So I'm going to use this one. So the mistake that a lot of kids make here is because it goes 2, 1, they want to put 2 in for y. Right? But the y is really 1. And then our x is 2. So we write times 2 here plus b. The other mistake that students forget about and get confused is they forget that they can't just solve now. Always when you do this, there's going to be 2 numbers here that have to be multiplied together before you solve. Okay, so this is really, and I'm going to write this right here, 1 equals -6 plus b. You had to multiply the -3 and 2 together. And now some of you can easily do this in your head. Others of you have to use the algebra. For the sake of the video, I will show the algebra on it. But really, you're thinking to yourself, -6 plus what number gives you 1? So think that in your head for a second. But the algebraic way to do it is to cancel the -6 because it's on the same side as b. So I would add 6 here, right? And add 6 over here to keep it balanced. And b comes down, and that is going to equal 7. Okay? Now, you do all this work. That's not the answer. What's the final answer to the question being asked, though? Because the question is, what equation in slope-intercept form? Nathaniel, what's the equation?
1 equals -3 times 2 plus 7.
No, that's with all the specific information. I want the general equation. Emma, go. Nope, that's not that's too general. Go, Elvin.
Y equals -3x plus 7.
Y equals -3x plus 7. So what you want to do is you want to make an equation. When it says write the equation, it means what equation could you type in your calculator and make a graph, basically, okay? So if I put y equal mx plus b in my graphing calculator, would it make a graph?
Yeah.
No, it's not, okay? But if I put y equal -3x plus 7 in there, does that make a graph?
Yes.
Sure does. And it should cross at 7 and have a rise of -3 and run of 1, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, see?
Whoa.
So exciting.
Call it negative.
Okay, that's the lesson for today. And just to make sure people know at home, we are going to do the even numbers through 32 today, okay? Evens, okay? The even numbers through 32. And it's not really as much as it appears to be, okay? For example, number 2, right? This is the first one you got to do. It says, find the slope and y-intercept of the graph of each equation. Do you have to graph it?
No.
No, you literally have to state the slope and the y-intercept. What's the slope?
Negative.
What's the y-intercept? Okay, so save your tears and your complaints for someone else.
Fine, this is easy.
Okay. All right. The date today is... Yeah. Okay. Online folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I will get back to you as soon as I can.